Hi guys! So I have traveled to China 3 times now, and I got the chance to learn and see so much of this beautiful country that is still a mystery to many of us. And each time I go back, I learn more about the people, the culture, the history, and the customs. And I'm sure I still only have scratched the top of the iceberg. But for now, these are the top 10 biggest cultural shocks I experienced in China. 1. China is huge. China is like 9.5 square kilometers and the second biggest country by landmass in the world. And I grew up in the Netherlands, which is only a bit more than 41,500 square kilometers. So, as you can imagine, for me, China is huge. China is literally 231 times bigger than the Netherlands. And for a girl like me, this is really hard to fathom. Like, there's so much land and it takes hours to travel from the most northern point of China to the most southern point, or from the east to the west. In the Netherlands, you only have to drive 3 hours and you already reach that point. It can take hours or sometimes even days to travel from one province to the other. And you know, another thing is, always when we go to China by plane, it amazes me that we are above China, but we still have to fly like 6 hours to reach the destination. And then you land, and then you are met with these massive skyscrapers, massive buildings that accommodate more than 1 billion people, so that's crazy. And when you enter these train stations or airports or even shopping malls, you can't help but feel so small when you see all these people. Like, I'm not used to see so many people in such small places. Kinda makes me feel humble and feel like my life and my struggles and problems don't really matter. 2. Food culture. First of all, in China they eat 3 hot meals a day. For a girl that grew up in the Netherlands, my breakfast mainly consists of a cold sandwich, some fruit. In the afternoon also a cold sandwich and maybe a yogurt. And in the evening a hot meal. But in China it's like 3 hot meals a day. And I really experienced this last time when my family made sure I wasn't hungry. And when they would prepare breakfast for us with like 10 different side dishes. Lunch again for us, but again another 10 different side dishes. And also in the evening, another hot meal, and also 10 different side dishes. There would be meat, there would be fish, there would be chicken, a lot of vegetables, fruits, like soup, rice, everything. For me, it was crazy to see how much time and effort they put in these meals. And don't get me wrong, the food was delicious, and I was so thankful and grateful that they made these meals for us. But also our stomach had to get used to 3 hot meals a day, and also get used to having meat every meal of your day, and also the way it got prepared because everything was fried in a wok. And another thing I learned about Chinese cuisine is that each province has their own unique, authentic cuisine. You cannot compare food from Beijing to food from Shanghai to food from Wuhan. Like, everything is different and everything has their own unique taste. As I said, for each meal they would prepare like 10 different side dishes. That's typical for Chinese people because it's not like every dish is meant for you, it's meant to share. And even when you go out for dinner with the family, you're not supposed to order your own meal, your own dish, but you're supposed to order like 6 dishes and share everything. And again, this is also completely different from the Netherlands, where you go out to a restaurant and you order a meal for yourself and it's not meant to share with everyone. So I think this is also really funny and interesting to see and very different from what I'm used to. And it's all about the saying, sharing is caring. 3. Customer service. I think that the customer service in China is like the complete opposite of the customer service in the Western world, meaning that the guest is not king, and overall they don't really care about being hospitable and being kind and nice and welcoming. For instance, when you go out to eat in a restaurant, you should not expect the waiter to come to you, say, how are you, what would you like to order? No, don't expect that. In China, you have to go to the waiter and you have to shout, 服务员，我想点, meaning, waiter, I want to order. And also there's like no small talk, there's no talk about the weather, and often you don't even say thank you to each other. And this isn't considered rude, it's just normal. Also, when you enter a store, you don't really say hello, and when you go, you don't really say bye. And all of this isn't meant to be rude, it's just, I think that they are very straight to the point, and as long as you do your job, that's all that matters to them. 4. Convenience. I think of all of the countries I have ever been to, China must be the most convenient country in the world. And let's start with Didi. Didi is like a taxi company and you can use it to order a taxi via an app. And it's so easy to use. It's like Uber, but then way cheaper and better. The thing is, in China, DDs are literally everywhere. Even like in the middle of nowhere, you will find a DD that will be there in 10 minutes. And usually when you are in the city, you don't have to wait any longer than 4 minutes. They are so incredibly fast and you have so many of them. It's crazy. And of course, the costs. It's so cheap to take a DD and I still don't understand how it can be that cheap. Also, you don't need to know any Mandarin to use Didi. You just write down the address you want to go to in the app and they will know where to drive you to. And also it will already tell you how much the drive will be. So that's so handy. And it's so cheap compared to the Netherlands. Like when we arrived in Shanghai airport, we had to go to our hotel, which took about 30 minutes by Didi, by taxi. And these 30 minutes only cost us 6 euros. And in the Netherlands, taking a taxi for like 30 minutes will already cost you more than 120 euros or something. So that's literally, I don't know, an increase of... And also in restaurants, usually they have a QR code on the table and you just enter the restaurant, you go to your table and you scan this code, and via this code you will see the menu, you can pick the items and you can order. And it's so easy because you also immediately pay, so that's already taken care of and the food will come in a few minutes. So handy. Again, you don't really need to know any Chinese because if you already have an online translation app on your phone, it gets translated automatically. And China actually, compared to many years ago, they don't use cash. It's the land of QR codes and it's the land of doing everything digitally via your phone. Also street vendors, like these old ladies in the streets, they even don't like cash and they even have QR codes in front of them which you can scan to buy their food or their items. 5. Manners. So one thing I knew about manners in China was from 2009 when I went back to China for the first time, and I knew people would spit on the ground, but I didn't know that nowadays it still happens. And it's mainly done by the older generation, and for them it's normal. For them it's like they've done that their whole life and it's not weird and it's not considered rude for them. But for me, it was a shock. And sometimes even in restaurants, it happens. And I really... it took me a while to get used to this sound and just get used to the fact that everyone thought it was normal. And there are different theories on why they do it. Some are cultural. They say that it has been a part of their traditional customs and it's often linked to health benefits. And some believe that spitting could help clear the respiratory system. And the thing is, these beliefs were rooted so deeply that even when urbanization began and health education improved, they still believed it and they still did it. And luckily, the government has put a lot of effort in campaigns discouraging spitting. And in like the bigger cities like Shanghai and Wuhan, it's not that common. Oh, and one thing about manners is that Chinese people love to stare. It's crazy how many times they were staring at me like for 5 minutes straight, or staring at my boyfriend, or staring at both of us, and they even turn around and they even point fingers, and often they would scream to my boyfriend, "Wagwan." 6. The Ayis and nightlife. I was so amazed by the nightlife and about the Ayis and also uncles doing karaoke in the streets, and they were so unbothered and they were so living their life and just enjoying life and singing so loud and streaming themselves. And often you have these Ayis singing here in this corner of the street, and like 50 meters next to them there's another Ayi singing, doing karaoke. And also the dancing, I think it's so cute to see them dancing. It's really normal in China to see these big groups of people, usually women, but sometimes also men, and dance. And oftentimes they dance very well, and I think it's so cute to see. Of course, it's good for their health as well. It's good to have physical movement, but it's also the sense of community, I guess, and a way to socialize. It also adds a sense of security. And I think it's so nice because these kind of things you don't see in the Netherlands. 7. Affection. So in China, affection is shown differently. First of all, public affection doesn't exist. I have never seen couples holding hands. I have never seen couples kissing each other in public. I haven't seen people hugging each other. And it's just not a thing. And it also applies to showing affection to your loved ones, like my Chinese family. For Chinese families, it's usually not really normal to hug each other and to say things like, "I love you, I am proud of you." My older sister also told me that in China it's very uncommon and strange if a parent would say to their child, I love you. And that totally doesn't mean that they don't love their children. They just don't express it in that way. Instead of saying I love you or instead of hugging each other, they show their love via other ways, like cooking and preparing meals. And this is something I am not used to, something I experienced firsthand. 8. Squat toilets. I knew China was all about squat toilets, but I really didn't know that in the year 2025 this was still the case almost everywhere. And even in fancy restaurants they would only have these squat toilets. And I was really shocked. In malls you only had squat toilets, metro stations you only had squat toilets. And when I visited my grandparents' apartment, I realized that also they only have a squat toilet, which often is literally just a hole in the ground. And I was really shocked by this. And I don't mean that in a negative or downgrading way, because it's not like they don't have the resources for a normal toilet on which you can sit. It's just that they really prefer using a squat toilet and squatting. And I guess I understand it because it does keep you flexible. 9. Smoking. During my time in China, I felt like almost every man smoked. And it's true, like it's really accepted in China to smoke. And it's usually the men that smoke, and it's a social thing as well. Because I remember when I first found my biological family and they invited me to this very big family dinner. All the men were giving cigarettes to each other and also handing them out to Ruben. I was also really shocked that they smoke even inside the restaurants. 10. Differences in cities. So last time I visited, we spent a few days in Shanghai, and it was my first time in Shanghai. And to be honest, at times I didn't even feel like I was in China. I felt like I could be in New York as well. Like the cleanliness, the amount of restaurant chains and brands, the modern buildings, the architecture, just the way how people conduct themselves. It was very different from the cities and places I have been to my previous time. And I really started to notice the differences between the cities within China. The Chinese even have an official system for this, which is called tier cities, and they have 4 different levels of tier cities depending on consumer behavior, depending on income, population size, infrastructure, business opportunities, and so on. So Shanghai is considered a top tier city, just like Beijing. But the city I went to, the city where my family lives, is considered a tier 3 or maybe even tier 4 city, meaning that there are a lot of differences on a economic and social level. I don't know, there was just a completely different atmosphere as well. Shanghai felt like a metropolitan city, very international, whereas the other cities felt like the complete opposite. So if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. You can like this video or you can subscribe. I am very curious to hear your experiences about China and your initial shocks. And as for these mentioned shocks, I think I will always be shocked when I visit China, and I will always learn something new. Sometimes I feel like learning about China is like learning about a completely different new world. Because their history, their culture, their way of thinking, their politics, it is so different from how I grew up. But I also think it's very important to keep an open mind and to not be judgmental. Because I do believe that there are many lessons for me, a Western girl, hidden in these cultural differences. And I am very excited to learn more about these differences. And I hope you are too. See you next time. And again, thank you so much for watching. Bye!